You can't be fighting it, and you can't be yanking your kids around. This is scary for your kids. Good morning, Mr. Hodges.
Good morning.
And Darren Earl Hodges is here with his lawyer, James McWheel. We've also got several people here who have interest in the case. The gallery, prosecuting attorneys, victim staff is here. I was given a letter from Destiny Church, which I shared with the parties, and I was just given 4 or 5 character letters on behalf of Darren Hodges, which I laid on the prosecutor's bench. Anyway, this is unpleasant. Every time I look at this, it made me cringe. Saw one down at a children's baseball game. And as bad as that sounds, that happens all the time. Every summer we get parents fighting at football games or baseball games or soccer games, or and every time it makes me cringe. Anyway, Jalen Hodges was originally charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, assault and battery, disturbing the peace, and domestic assault. He entered a plea to domestic assault, and the prosecutor's recommendation was that he be deferred under the domestic violence deferral statute. And so we're here. The prosecutor's staff had been very good at trying to keep me up to speed on what was going on. And then late this morning, I saw the victim impact letter that was written. I provided a copy to Mr. McWheel. Did you see it, Mr.?
I have not seen it.
Mr. McWheel, could you share that with him? All right. Having said all that, let's start with you, Mr. George. What would you like me to know?
Well, thank you, Your Honor. I think that the court, the court's right. I mean, this is a situation that unfortunately does happen often. As the court knows, my client does have 3 children in common with Ms. Swartz. So I think that the prosecutor's recommendation would be a good benefit for my client. This is I think the best way to put it, it is a tumultuous situation between my client and the mother of his children. He advises that there's been a lot of this back and forth. He hasn't seen the kids since this happened, even though there is a parenting time order that is in place. I know that that is an issue that is currently going through the front of the court process, but he's going to have to be able to have some communication with Ms. Swartz until the children are at the age of majority. And I think that the ability for him to access the resources through an anger management and a probation would be beneficial. I know that through his employment at Fiber Converters, he's talked about some of the services that are available and meeting with a counselor. And I know that I don't think anything is set in stone yet, but that is something that he's working towards. So I think he is taking this really seriously, and I think he would benefit from that probation. My client doesn't have any type of criminal history. That's what's, a little bit kind of frustrating about this whole process. It looks like this was just something that had been boiling up over time. Unfortunately, these things happen. But again, I think that the benefit for him would be to be able to access those resources on a probation. I do think that if the court were to think that any type of jail time would be appropriate, we'd ask that it be deferred over the course of the probation to see how he does. Again, he does have full-time employment that will be 2 years of employment this coming September. So we'd ask the court to sentence my client to probation and defer any jail time over the course of that probation. Thank you.
Thank you. You didn't get a chance to see that victim impact statement. I got it. I don't know when I saw it, maybe 9:30 or so when I came in on a break. But you can review it there, and the complainant is here. Ms. Davis has joined us now. Ms. Davis, we started with Jalen's, and then we'll go to Darren's. I laid several letters of recommendation that were handed to me about 2 seconds ago on behalf of Darren Hodges. This is Jalen's, as I indicated, the plea was to domestic violence with prosecutors, no objection to a deferral. I think I mentioned this at the time of the plea. In a domestic violence case, I can't do a deferral unless the prosecutor accepts it. In a drug case, I can. In some other cases, I can, whether the prosecutor agrees or not. But in a domestic violence case, I can only do it if the prosecutor concurs. And for the most part, they do, because they know what it entails. It entails a probation and a domestic violence treatment class, and no drugs and no alcohol and no assaultive behavior. Your father went through one of these when he was young, and he successfully completed it. So the charge becomes at that point non-public. You don't have much of a record. You had some sort of a false pretense a few years ago and maybe a traffic ticket, but no assaultive stuff that I was able to discern. Ms. Davis, you wish to speak to that at all?
This, as my understanding, is scheduled for 11 a.m. So
I thought they were both for 10:30.
Yeah, I think mine noticed at 10:30, but
they were on our calendar for 11. So I
Yeah.
apologize. We were.
Okay, well, we started 20 minutes late, and so I didn't know what happened. I just thought you were caught up in something else.
Well, we were with our new APA being sworn in. So, this case from the beginning has been difficult. Anytime there's children that are involved and right in the mix, and children that are there at a ball field and other parents and grandparents and people, it certainly elevates the factors where you want to make sure that there's some sort of punishment and that this doesn't happen again. Both the women are here, and would you like to speak, either of you?
Like reading the statement.
If you'd like to.
I'll read mine.
Okay. This has been very difficult for them. It's been very difficult on the kids. I'm sure, as Your Honor is aware from the statements that were sent in. And certainly, the letters on behalf of Mr. Hodges, Darren Hodges specifically, stating that he's a good friend, he's a good person. The choices that were made on this day were terrible. And it's something that, our goal is to rehabilitate the relationship between the children and their grandparent and father, and the co-parenting relationship. And that's where the probation part of this is going to be key. After meeting with the victims, I'm not certain that this is going to quote unquote stick with Jalen. Your Honor said Darren Hodges did this years ago. Maybe a refresher course on that, because this type of behavior is not acceptable ever, let alone in front of, dozens of small children. So.
Yeah, this was horrifying for everybody that was there. And I mentioned this before you got, this happens all the time. Several times a year, parents are fighting over their children at a sporting event. Shame on all of them. And so we've seen this over the years, and I'm sure everybody was there, didn't like it. All right, good morning. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Danielle Swartz Freising.
All right, and you're the mother of the children involved here?
Yeah, stepmom.
Stepmom?
Yep.
All right, so you're not their mother, you're their mother's wife?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
This is for Jalen. Victim's personal reaction. I am scared to go to bed at night. My anxiety is so high. I don't ever feel safe. I'm always checking my doors to make sure they are locked. I am so worried for myself and my children, and I'm very traumatized by all of this. Jalen threw rocks at my head and back. I had a headache for a few days. And then says victim's property loss. I lost time coaching my boys' baseball game as I'm banned from all Centerville parks. My children lost time playing in baseball, softball, and I'm not sure what I wrote there. To be repaid. Oh, I'm asking for that to be repaid. And then I would like $270 refunded due to all the time lost. And then it says sentencing, and this has been a reoccurring issue, and I believe Jalen Hodges should serve some time so it can show him the seriousness of his actions. And I have one for Darren. Do you want me to read that one now, or do you want me to wait?
Yes. No, you can go ahead. You're not the named complainant in the charges that they pled to. You may have been one of the charges, but I believe the charges.
Yeah, she was one of the charges.
Which one?
Darren Hodges choked me and
All
threw
right,
me
well,
to the
just a
ground.
minute. Let me go to Darren's thing.
he count 2, Your Honor. It's the domestic violence allegation.
It's Jalen. Now, I got a lengthy one. No, that's not that. Where is it? Pled no contest to count 2. Assault and battery on Kaylee Swartz. So it's not a domestic violence, it's an A and B, but that is correct, Ms. Davis. Carly Swartz Freising is the complainant in Darren's case, but not in Jalen's case. I'm sorry, so go ahead.
For Darren.
Yes.
I am extremely affected. I can't sleep very well. I have horrible dreams. I keep replaying the crime in my head. It terrifies me daily. My children are having night terrors. My daughter has been sleeping in my wife and I room since this crime happened because she is so scared. I am so scared that I'm constantly locking my doors during the middle of the day. My body is strained from the assault and adrenaline. I also got a cut on my right elbow and a scraped and bruised knee. I'm having discomfort in my hip on my right side after being thrown to the ground. And then property loss. My phone was damaged after I got thrown to the ground. The value of my phone is about $529.99. I lost my coaching position and the ability to attend my children's baseball and softball games. I have lost $273 that I have invested in my children's sport. And then, yeah, the total loss, I just said $273 is for Little League and $529.99 for the damage of my phone. And then I believe the sentence should have the same impact as the impact on myself and my family.
All right. Thank you. All right, so I did get the victim impact statement from the other complainant, which is the mother of the children. And hers is quite lengthy and it goes into some details. That's from Courtney Freising.
Yeah.
Courtney would like her wife to read it. Because she doesn't feel comfortable.
All right. They've got it. All right, go ahead.
To whom it may concern, on May 3rd, 2025, I was assaulted by my ex-boyfriend at Adams Park, Centerville, Michigan. Jalen Hodges is the father of my 3 children, Jaden Swartz, 8, Cameron Swartz, 8, Kylie Swartz, 6. Our daughter Kylie was being held in her father's arms as I was attacked by him. I was at Adams Park at 10:30 a.m. where my twins boys were playing a game. I dropped my wife Carly Freising off because she was a voluntary assistant coach for the boys team and to drop off the boys' baseball equipment. I approached Jalen, who was standing by the dugout, asking him where Kylie was because I offered to Jalen that I would take her to her game, which was being held at Wheaton Swanwick Park, Centerville, Michigan. Jalen told me she was already at her field. I asked who took her, and he told me it was none of my business. I left Adams Park and headed to Wheaton Swanwick Park, 1.2 miles away from Adams Park. I arrived at Kylie's game with her equipment. I saw Darren Hodges sitting in a camp chair watching Kylie warm up for her game. I did not talk to Darren the entirety of Kylie's game. After her game ended, Darren went to take Kylie to his truck. I was walking beside them calmly. We were splitting off to go to our own vehicles when Kylie told me she wanted me to take her to her brother's game because she wanted to watch them play. Darren persisted on trying to grab Kylie and telling her they were going to pick up Darren's wife from work. Kylie became uncomfortable and said she did not want to go with Darren, and she grabbed my hand and said she wanted to go with me. I told Darren I would take her straight to Jalen. I also voiced that in 2017, Jalen Hodges and I had a verbal contract stating that Jalen's parents were never allowed to be around our kids unless he or I were present. That agreement has been held all these years until the mid-year 2024. Before I could contact Jalen directly, Darren had already called him, but I did text Jalen as I was heading to Adams Park. As I pulled away from Wheaton Swanwick Park, Darren was following behind me in his truck. He sped through a stop sign into oncoming traffic, almost causing an accident to stay behind me. I arrived at Adams Park in 2-3 minutes and parked my car. Jalen looked visibly upset. I turned my car off as Jalen walked up to me. I got out of my car and turned to open my left passenger door to unbuckle Kylie. As I tried reaching for her car seat, Jalen started yelling and screaming at me to give him his kid. I tried to ask him to lower his voice and to calm down, and I was about to get her out of the car. Jalen continued to yell regarding my request, so I closed the car door so Kylie would not hear her dad yelling at me. I continued to ask him to please stop yelling and cussing. He refused. At this time, Darren walked around the front of my car with his phone up recording. As Darren arrived, Jalen seemed to be more agitated and angry. Darren started to join in with Jalen and began arguing and fighting with myself and Carly. The agreement gets more and more heated, and Jalen forced himself into my car, and that's when Kylie started screaming with terror. I then began pulling on Jalen's shirt, yelling and begging him to stop because he was scaring Kylie and hurting her. Jalen yanked and pulled at her. Kylie was in a 5-point harness. Darren then grabs me and puts his hands around my throat, slamming me against the side of my car, squeezing my throat so I could not breathe. As Jalen was exiting my car with Kylie, who was still screaming in terror, Jalen then began hitting and punching me with his left arm while his right arm was holding Kylie. Jalen ran around Darren, who was still choking me, and tried running behind my car. I managed to pry Darren's hand off my throat and then went over to Jalen, begging him to just hand me Kylie because she was terrified. I was terrified. I had blood dripping from my right arm above my elbow, and very visible red mark from Darren choking me. I tried grabbing Kylie's hand just to let her know that I was okay. But then Jalen yanked her away, causing me to pull Kylie's arm, so I released my grip on her to not cause any pain or injury to her. Jalen then moved to the front of my vehicle where people from the park and parents from the baseball game started gathering towards us. Cops were called and on their way. All three of mine and Jalen's kids have been intense nightmares about their dad. Kylie is scared of the dark now and has to sleep in my room to feel safe. Kylie was waking up all hours of the night having nightmares for weeks. Luckily, the boys did not witness Jalen's attack nor Darren's attack on myself, but they saw arguing, me crying in fear for my daughter, their sister begging for her mom. Kylie stated, "I just want to give mommy a hug." The boys saw all the parents surrounding their dad and Darren. The boys ended up coming over to me after their game was shut down. They were concerned for their moms and their sister. The boys saw their dad get put in handcuffs, as did Kylie, who was released to come to me as Jalen was being cuffed. Kylie ran to me screaming and crying into my arms across the field. Cameron has had a reoccurring nightmare almost every night since the incident. I have experienced high anxiety, deep depression, and uneasiness. Any sound or thud makes me jump. I wake up startled and scared that Jalen will break into my home. This has affected my whole family and still does. All three kids are in therapy to help them cope with the incident. This is a horrible event, should never have happened. We can say that this was just an argument about parenting time, but it was not. It was a tragic, horrific day that has scared myself, my children, and my wife. I tried giving Jalen our daughter calmly. She was in my possession no longer than a couple minutes, but regardless, there were children all around us. My child, my baby girl, was in the middle of this and witnessed her father and grandfather hurt her mother and stepmother. I was with Jalen for almost 8 years, and I unfortunately cannot say this was a new experience with him, or the first time our kids have witnessed this intense anger. I feared that as the time went on, Jalen's aggression and lack of control would worsen, and I believe it has. I believe if this case is not handled correctly, Jalen will be heading down a very dark, aggressive, immature road, just like his father has. Jalen and Darren Hodges should both be convicted with a serious sentence. Hurting a woman and a child should not be brushed off. This is a very serious offense, and it has a huge effect on the physical and mental health of the victims.
Thank you. All right, then we're gonna do Jalen's sentence, then we're gonna go to Darren's. One thing that I wasn't completely clear on, the parties were never married. They had 3 children together. The mother is married now, but she was not married to Jalen. Is there a custody and visitation order in place
Yes, sir.
through the court here in Centerville?
Yes.
And that particular day was your parenting time?
Yes, sir.
And so you had parenting time from when to when?
I had it from Friday at 6 till Sundays till 6
And that's how it's been working for several years?
for 2 years now. Yes.
All right, when I say parenting time, the kids actually stay at your house?
Yes.
And you're married now and in a.
No.
All right.
I live with my father and
And
my
your
mother.
All right, so grandma and grandpa are part of the kids' lives?
Yes.
All right, so this is a baseball game during his parenting time. And as such, they get to make paramount decisions about what happens to the kids. Nobody will give an inch. She wanted to ride with her grandma to where her dad was. And you're like, no, we have parenting time. So you can't ride with your grandma. Grandma won't give an inch. Stop.
It's the mom.
Yeah, mom
Yeah.
Mom.
Yeah, there.
won't give an inch. I want to take my baby daughter to where her dad is. You're not supposed to be in contact with your grandpa. Apparently that's not in the order. So everybody's hard-headed and it turns into this ugly fiasco in front of everybody at the baseball game. And it's embarrassing. Now, you haven't seen your kids since May. Ms. Davis hit this point, so did Mr. George. At some point, we gotta have at least some situation where you guys can deal with each other because you're stuck with each other until these kids reach the age of majority. Now, I was told Children's Protective Services was called. Did anything come of that?
CPS has been at our place, yeah.
It's an ongoing investigation.
All
We
right,
are
so,
supposed to meet with, Josh.
Ferris.
Ferris. And he has yet to contact me with a meeting date for that.
All right. So your custody order is still in effect,
Yes, sir.
but there's no contact provisions in here, so that's affected that. So I don't know the circumstances of their home or your home. But Judge Pattison or somebody did a visitation and custody order. And they aren't possessions, excuse me, or pets, they're children. And this was terrible for the children. Your granddaughter's getting yanked out of a child seat. The boys said this looked like WWE. They're embarrassed. And now you got no visitation, and as the time passes, you'll just grow farther apart. Their preference, I suppose, would be you would just disappear. Do you not have contact with your children and not be a part of their life? It sounds like things were not the greatest while you were together, but you were together long enough to have 3 children and you're stuck with each other. So the prosecutors recommend, and this was also no contest plea. So when you plead no contest, you don't admit what happened, but you don't deny it. So you allow or accept that a conviction will enter. So the facts are the facts that we use for the plea, which is the bond information report.
Your Honor, I believe my client pled guilty.
All right.
And
All right. So Jalen pled guilty. All right, to the domestics. All right, thank you, Tim. All right, so I got to figure out what to do with Jalen. They would both like you to go to jail for a long time and go away. But I can't do that because the family court's still going to be involved and protective service is going to be involved. You don't have much of a criminal record, a minor property matter. But everybody's in agreement that you could use the domestic violence treatment class. Mr. George suggested deferring some days during the term of the probation. That's fairly common. I believe you have 2 days jail credit.
3.
You got arrested on the 3rd.
Yes.
You bonded on the 6th. You have 3 days credit. I'm gonna do a 12-month probation. Order 33 days jail, credit for 3. Of the 33, 30 are deferred for your participation and cooperation with this. The fine is 0. You got enough to pay. There's a $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee, $150 attorney fee, $480 probation oversight fee, and you to pay for the class. DV class. It's beneficial. It has to do with anger, parenting, fatherhood, partnerhood, anger. One factor here, I didn't get any impression that anybody was drinking. So I don't think drugs or alcohol were a factor in this, just difficult family dynamics. No assaultive or threatening behavior, no drugs and no alcohol, and test as directed. Comply with all CPS. And parenting time orders. Gee whiz. Got another PPO. You're still at Fiber Converters?
Yes, sir.
If you complete this probation, this charge is removed from your record. And there's, right now, you can't use or possess a firearm. I don't know if you hunt, but you can't do that while this. If you complete the probation, the charge is removed as a public record of conviction. As of right now, the no contact provision is going to be lifted.
There's a
And-
PPO zone.
And there's a PPO that prohibits contact with the children.
And not with the children.
Not with the children, just with my wife. And then the bond conditions for both of them were
They're
no
going to
contact.
be lifted. So
Okay,
you're
yeah.
going to be legally entitled to contact with your children. That's going to be very difficult because you got to reestablish this. You're not going to get X'd out of the rest of your children's life because of this incident. But you're going to be on probation. You're not on a bond condition. There's a PPO that prohibits you from having contact with them.
Except for when we have pick up or drop off. It's stated in the PPO.
Yeah, all right.
And I do have plans for someone accompanying me to pick up and drop off, so there's no more incidents happening.
That's probably all for the best. Right now, I take them at their word. Your kids are afraid of you. They didn't like this. Yeah, yes. And you're gonna have to rebuild some trust with them. I'm not sure about the boys so much, but your daughter, this was frightening for kids. Let's talk about Darren Hodges.
Your Honor, okay, they have requested restitution for the fees for the kids for baseball.
That's a no. I might consider restitution for a broken phone. Tell me about that.
When Darren Hodges pushed me, he shoved.
Well, I
me
haven't
on-
done Darren yet.
That's, I just, if there
Yeah,
was gonna
well,
be.
my
any-
No, I'm
phone
not
is-
gonna do restitution for, they all got kicked off the thing and they were all part of this thing. I may consider your phone, so
Yeah,
we'll take
'cause
that
it's
up.
totally
for the
broke.
next one. All right. All right, Darren Earl Hodges. The complainant in that case. Read her statement. That's Carly Swartz Freising. And we got a number of letters on behalf of Mr. Hodges, one from Pastor Jerry Solis of Destiny Church and some other letters from people that he worked with. And character references. One thing is, I probably know Mr. Hodges better than the character references. When he was young, he was a frequent visitor here at the courthouse. He has at least 4 domestic violence charges in his past. Couple of malicious destruction of property charges and some other assorted things I won't get into, which are old. Pastor Solis told me that, and in the letter, he got connected with the Destiny Church about a dozen years ago or so. And I don't know that there's anything newer than that. So these people know him in the last 12 years, but he did have several assaultive offenses. One was deferred, one was turned into a disturbing the peace, one was some sort of other deferral. And, but he grew up, He had kids, got a job. Did you lose your job as a result of this at XL Machine?
Yes, sir.
Or you went to jail and they just terminated you for not showing up?
Well, it escalated through other things that they said I violated a policy at work.
All right.
But
All right.
I am employed now,
At where?
Cooper Damp and Waterproofing out of Middlebury.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mequio, you know your client and this circumstance. Again, it was, nobody was willing to budge. It sounds innocuous enough. He's there with his granddaughter watching her game. She lives at his house. He's grandpa. Then everything went haywire. What would you like me to know?
Judge, I think you have a good grasp of everything that went on, and I think the fact that everybody was banned indicates that this was not an out and out attack or some sort of assault where somebody was totally victimized and run over with some sort of a criminal activity and had to be helped. This was a argument, this was yelling, this was screaming on both parties' ends, this was physical contact by both parties. But my client realizes what he did was inappropriate. And I think that's why he sought out the Pastor Solis, who is present in the courtroom here, showing his support, which I think is important and very telltale as to what kind of person Mr. Hodges is. He took responsibility, Your Honor. He entered his plea. He realizes that there was probably much better ways to handle an incident where his grandchildren and his son were involved in an altercation with a couple of women. He should not have touched anybody. He should not have put his hands on anybody. He realizes that. He's embarrassed as to how the community may have observed him that day and observed everybody that was involved in this case that day. I don't think it spoke very well for the way he wants his family portrayed. And I think that's why, Your Honor, he continues to work hard. He continues to seek employment. He now is in counseling. He's working with his pastor. He is stepping back, waiting to see what the family court does. It's my understanding the parties have a hearing in family court the 15th. So maybe something will happen in the next week or so. They'll get the parenting time back on track and get everybody involved in a situation where they can communicate with each other without really upsetting anyone, realizing that the communication is for the children only and not for them. My client is prepared to do whatever the court wishes. I think incarceration at this point, Your Honor, would be unjust given what he's done and the 3 days he's already spent in jail. The court did make reference to his criminal history. I think that was approximately 20 years ago.
Well, the most recent thing he has on there, other than this, is 2014.
Yeah,
So I haven't seen him in 10 years.
Yeah.
I've seen him, but not here as a litigant in court.
and Your Honor would realize that if someone doesn't avoid that type of contact unless he's made some change in his life that are very positive. He loves his grandchildren. He loves his son. I'm hoping something will work out where he'll be able to continue his relationship with his grandchildren. But other than that, Your Honor, if the court feels probation is necessary, we would ask the court to consider probation and defer or not impose any jail term, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
I was just confirming the kids are in counseling and will remain in counseling. And, you know, having a background in family law and criminal law, they intertwine. And I don't think that people recognize how damaging their behavior can be to young kids, from babies all the way through teenagers. The way that these parties interact with each other historically seem to be strained. And then it went from strained to really bad and assaultive. I disagree with Attorney Mequio's characterization of the kind of mutual combat type that he described. From what I understand from the victims and from viewing the video, this was aggressive behavior from the defendants toward the victims. And the reports that Darren Hodges was, running through stop signs and tailgating, and it just shows that aggressive, angry behavior that is not conducive to helping raise children. These kids are living in the home with him and his wife and their dad. If you're willing to do this in the public, it makes me wonder what you say about the other parties behind closed doors. So it just goes on both sides. The way that you frame your relationship with the other parties is how your kids are going to be able to heal. So I just encourage both defendants to get involved with the counseling, meet with the kids' counselors, so that they can rehabilitate this relationship and then get to the point where they don't have this type of animosity. Because whether you say something or not, if you're all in the same area and there's tension, the kids can feel it, and it's not fair to them. Thank you.
We got birthday parties, school pageants, graduation, prom, all kinds of things these parents are gonna have to weather together. And you're right on the money. The kids can feel it.
Judge, just as to the restitution, if the court's gonna order, we'd just like more information as to what was damaged, an estimate as to what it would cost to repair the phone, that sort of thing.
Yeah, where did that, if I'm gonna do a probation, I can reserve on the restitution, but we'd like some.
She turned in, did you turn in a copy to victim rights?
Yeah, I believe so.
Receipt?
Let me look.
Yeah, receipts, we have receipts, all of that, yeah.
I don't think I have it.
Should be attached to our paperwork there.
Let's take a look. I didn't scroll down far enough. And here's a bunch of those. I had looked, again, I was looking for the victim impact stuff. And I got it. It was in Jalen's file. I never received a new statement from Carly Swartz. I spoke with her end of last week. That was as of this morning. So whatever you sent, I don't have yet.
I think I can get them out of these.
All right, well, we'll reserve on it, but it's 542.
It's
What type of phone?
It's the iPhone 13. It's a very old phone. So really for the cost of a new one is about $529.99. It's about $600.
All right, but that, if you had a car that was broken, you don't get a new car.
No.
So there's a valuation question.
I will say that like the newer model of iPhones are like $1,700. So I mean, as far as
So I don't want to shoot from the hip. We'll get more information about it. All right, you had a suggestion, Ms. Davis, that maybe he could use a little tune-up on anger management, and I think maybe that isn't a bad plan. I'll give 12 months probation, which you could complete at the end of 6. 13 days credit 3. Of those 13 days, 10 are deferred. So you're not going to do any more jail time if you do what I ask you to do. I'm sorry that you lost your job over this, because I know people that work there that thought you did a good job. Same thing, the fine is 0. There's a $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee. Attorney fee is none. There's $480 probation oversight fee to pay for the class. No assaultive or threatening behavior, and no drugs or alcohol. Test as directed. And again, I don't think drugs or alcohol are really a factor here. But if they were, it was under my radar. $605 plus the cost of the class. And restitution, we will reserve on restitution. When I place somebody on probation, I can amend it. I can change it. When I just do a sentence, for example, I just gave you 10 days in jail, I can't revisit it. reserve on the restitution, so I can add restitution on the iPhone to the probation once I get more information.
Your Honor, how would you like to receive? I just checked and the only thing I have is the receipts from the kids' baseball fees. So I believe it's potentially an email to our victim advocate. Do you want her to forward that to the?
Yeah, whatever.
probation department?
Something. Did you purchase a new iPhone?
Well, like I'm paying it off, like
That
my
one that's
service,
broken
yeah.
still? Okay, so you're still paying off the one that is broken and it's not usable?
I can use it, but it's got like a big crack all the way through it, and then it has those glasses peeling out of it, like out of the bottom part of it. So I mean, it's usable, but it's
All right, well,
it's getting, like my screen and glass shatters are coming out of it, so I mean, it's.
we're gonna have to figure out some figure. I'll order something as a partial restitution for that. In Darren's case, he's not a parent, he's a grandparent, so I would say the same thing, comply with all custody and visitation orders. But you're probably not gonna be part of the order unless you are. I think the little tune-up on anger management could be beneficial. Serve on restitution. Ms. Davis, I have the same fear you do, that this ain't gonna go well. But at some point, it's gotta go better than this. You can't be fighting it, and you can't be yanking your kids around. This is scary for your kids. You guys are gonna have to suck it up and deal with each other as best you can. All right, you're both on probation, no drugs, no alcohol, no assaulting behavior, comply with CPS and parenting time orders, and we'll make a further ruling on the restitution. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Probation, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. George.
Yeah, and then I think the picture you sent with the T-Mobile. The T-Mobile screens, yeah.
If you did, it could be in Nicole's email. I just didn't get.
Yeah, because the cost of the phone is an old phone, but it still was my phone. That's what I used.
It wasn't in right.
So,
No.
and that was the total of a new phone was 500. So really, if that's what I got back, that helped with something. But yeah.
So we're at least fixing it, so that it
Yeah,
can last
fixing it,
longer.
whatever.
All right, well, get it checked out and then get that info to Nicole before we get to the probation part.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.